Hey, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Kathleen George, Tribal Councilwoman for the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and welcome to my kitchen to talk to us about sort of a tribal perspective on this most recent pandemic, given your history, and also to share a really great recipe for elk stew. So. I guess to start off, what does this mean to tribal governments in this pandemic and with your history? I mean, what's your perspective and what challenges are you facing?
First of all, thanks, Val, so much for inviting me to your kitchen. I think this is fantastic. And I'm really happy to share some thoughts about what this current challenge means for tribes. So first of all, all our friends and neighbors, our tribal government is struggling first and foremost to take care of our people, take care of our most vulnerable, our elders, our children, still get our elders out their meals in a safe way, but also to take care of guests to the reservation. We've had to shut down Spirit Mountain Casino for a while to take care of our own employees and our guests. And our government too is very focused on our healthcare response. And with all that in mind, for a tribe, for a tribal nation, there's also very much a historical and a cultural perspective to all of this. Right now, I think it seems like extraordinary times to most Oregonians, that we are having to be secluded. We don't have access to all the resources we want. We're worried about people we love becoming sick. But for tribal people, this is a very, very common story. Tribal people have been through this again and again, and their parents, their grandparents, their aunties and uncles have had this experience. And so although it's COVID-19 today, it may have been tuberculosis or influenza. And this is such a common theme in tribal communities that our own myths talk about this, right? They talk about times when big sickness, kind of a personified big sickness, comes and threatens the people. And, our myths help us understand the world around us. And our mythic characters teach us certain things about what are better ways to behave and what are not so good ways to behave when faced with a challenge. And so one of the stories, our tribal stories that I really live with right now, and I think has some meaning for us, is our story of Coyote and the Big Sickness. And the big sickness came and it was killing many people. And Coyote needs to defeat the sickness. Now, it's important for me to say I can't tell the story here because it is springtime and we tell our myths in the winter, but I can share a few ideas that I think are really relevant. So I think we can learn from Coyote's mistakes in dealing with this challenge. First, Coyote thinks that he can escape the sickness. He can flee and get away and just protect himself. But his own selfishness undermines that effort, and he can't run away from the big sickness. And interestingly, another approach that he tries is to bluster his way past his encounter with the big sickness, to act like he's stronger and bigger and more dangerous than the big sickness. And it's really interesting to see some of the responses out there in the world today. Some folks think that if we're just loud and we just come off as strong, that somehow that's going to get us through a time where we really have to be very considerate of everyone around us. So Coyote finally figures out that a couple of things. One, he needs to focus on the weakness of the sickness, and two, he needs help. He can't do it by himself. He needs the help of small, humble mouse to defeat the big sickness. And so I think, as I'm living with this myth of ours in my head these days, I think we can learn from Coyote's mistakes. I think we can not be selfish. We can think of our community rather than just our own needs. I think we can realize we can't get through this with a lot of bluster and thinking that we're stronger than this, that we need to be sensitive to those who are most vulnerable and we need to put them first. And then finally, I think we realize that we can't get through this without the help of our friends and sticking together. So as a tribal government and as a tribal people, we are working with our neighbors, cities, counties, the state, to try to be in this together and to try to get through this together. And we will come out stronger for this. That's another thing that I can take some comfort in. This is our chapter in the very long story of big sickness. And I think what we need to do now is just make sure that our chapter is a chapter we're going to be proud of.
Well, I know one of the things that you are doing is taking care of your employees and tribal members as a community. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you've done there?
I'd be happy to. So like so many employers all over the state, the Grand Ronde tribal government is challenged to take care of our employees at this difficult time. Our primary business, Spirit Mountain Casino and Resort, is shut down to protect our guests and our employees at this time. That's really challenging for us. We have about 1,100 employees at Spirit Mountain Casino, and then probably about another 400 to 500 at the tribal government. At this time, we've really felt that we needed to take care of all of our employees, and so we have granted essentially 4 weeks of additional paid vacation time, with most employees staying at home or working from home and having this additional paid personal time that they can use to take care of their family and avoid potentially risking transmitting the disease from being at work. That is a real challenge for us, but it's one that we really feel is tremendously important. And we're going to do everything we can to continue to take care of all of our people and to make sure that our employees are safe. We do not want to, when it's the time for our guests to return to the reservation and return to Spirit Mountain Casino, we want them to be able to do that with confidence and know that we're doing everything we can to present a safe environment. And we're going to do what it takes between now and then to really support our employees and take care of our community.
Well, thank you for that, because I know being in a rural community, because people are getting those paychecks, they're able to spend that money locally, and that's helping the economy and certainly your employees. And I love the spirit of what you've said. And when we think about sharing comfort and sharing culture and taking care of each other, one of the ways to do that is through food and recipes, which is part of why I started this. Was I wanted to learn about other people's culture and recipes so that we can share that during this time that we're home and we're isolated. So with that, you've got a great recipe for elk stew. Would you like to share that and maybe a story about, about that recipe?
I would love to share my elk stew recipe. And also want to say right up front that if folks have access to game, elk or deer, they're in great shape. They are very lucky to have access to some of the healthiest, leanest meat you can get. But if you don't, not to worry. This will make a beautiful beef stew as well. So I don't want anybody to be put off if they don't have access to it. So I think stew is the perfect recipe to share at a time like this, where you might just be trying to make the best of what you have in the refrigerator because you can't just run to the store every time you want an ingredient. Fundamentally, stew is about working with what you have on hand and making a great dinner out of it. So if you've got some meat, you use it. You got some broth, you got some vegetables, a couple potatoes, you put them in a pot and you call that dinner. And I'm really happy to share this recipe. We're very fortunate. My husband Rick is a hunter, and so we have lots of access to elk and deer. But like I said, if you don't, you can go to the grocery store. You can find either some already cut up beef stew meat, and if you can't find that, just get a nice little sirloin roast, and you can cut that up, and you can make yourself a fantastic beef stew. So we're going to share the recipe, and the one thing I would just always remind people too, though, if you don't have golden potatoes, you can use russets. They're just going to cook up a little quicker. Put them in a little later. You got some mushrooms you want to throw in there, it'll be delicious. You want to add a little green beans, go for it. This is an easy, basic elk stew that is going to fill your home with a fantastic aroma. And it's dinner in a bowl. You're going to have your veggies, you're going to have your potatoes and your meat. So try this out, enjoy it, and whatever you do, just go for it. Whatever sounds good, you can throw it in this stew, and it's going to be delicious.
That is fantastic. Stew is one of my favorite comfort foods, and thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing what you're doing, and thank you for taking care of your community, and our state. And thank you for your friendship. So with that, enjoy your day.
Thanks so much, Val. This was great, friend. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.